Bonjour et bienvenue, je suis l'homme bleu et je ne sais pas ce que partie c'est. Yeah, so we're at the
Old House Museum.
yeah, we're at the oldest house in St. Augustine, the Gonzalez Alvarez house. And what do you know about this place, Adele?
I think it should be the oldest house in the world, or not in the world, in the U.S.
U.S. world, same thing. Okay, yeah, so this is the oldest house that has been continuously inhabited in St. Augustine, but it is not the oldest house in the U.S., unfortunately. It was at one point believed to be the oldest house in the U.S., but they misdated it to the 16th century. It was actually built in the early 1700s after the city was partially burned by the British.
And because it's not opened yet.
Yeah, so we're here at 9:30, but there's some stuff you can see inside. It opens in half an hour. But yeah, you can actually see bullet holes and cannonball holes in the walls around the house. But yeah, so about this house, it was believed to be the oldest in the country at one point, but they misdated it, so now they believe the oldest house in the United States is in Santa Fe, which is about 50 years newer than St. Augustine, as is Plymouth, Jamestown, and Quebec City. So then the reason for this particular construction is when the Spanish occupied Florida, they built their houses out of stone. This was originally a one-story building. But then, during the late 1700s, after a series of wars with the British, the Spanish ceded the peninsula of Florida to the British, and they built their houses out of wood. So the bottom part, stone construction made from coquina by the Spanish, and the top made out of wood, constructed by the British several decades later. It was later returned to the Spanish, who then sold it to the United States. And if you look up there, you see several flags, including the American flag, the Confederate flag, the British flag, the Spanish flag, and the flag of the British monarchy in the 1600s and 1500s. So that's where we are today. So here we have a bullet hole from a musket shot, and that's just right by the oldest house. It was right over there a little ways. So now we're on the southern part of St. George Street, which one can drive on. Has brick paving, but it's a one-way road. It's very narrow. The northern part of St. George Street is pedestrian only. That's where we're going to next. But we were just passing this, and this site is the site of the oldest Presbyterian church in Florida. It's no longer here, and there's a nice house here, but yeah, the first Presbyterian church in Florida was erected here in 1824. Alright, so we're on St. George Street still. And one of these buildings, somewhere in this complex of 9 buildings, is the Prince Napoleon Murat House, which Napoleon III, nephew of Napoleon Bonaparte, lived in for a time. Napoleon III was the last monarch of France during the Second French Empire, and he was forced to abdicate his throne in, I believe it was 1868, after the Franco-Prussian War. So he lived in one of these houses in St. Augustine for a time. So the clock tower has just struck 10 o'clock. And Adele, do you know where we are?
Basilica of St. George? No.
The Cathedral Basilica of St. Augustine. It's one of the oldest churches in the city. So Florida is the oldest parish in North America, with the Cathedral Basilica being built in, I believe it was 1702. don't quite remember, but it didn't achieve basilica status until 1970. Yeah, it's another landmark of historic downtown St. Augustine. And here we have the northern part of St.George Street, which is a pedestrian-only street. And Adele, what are we going to be doing here?
Shopping.
Exactly. Allons-y. So, even though this church itself wasn't constructed until the 1700s, there's been a church on this location since 1565. Let's go shopping on St. George Street. Shopping. So here we are now on St. George Street. It's not busy right now because we're here pretty early.
Just opened.
Yeah, it just opened. So it's 10 o'clock now, things are just opening. At noon, the streets will be crowded. This is where all the tourist shops, gift shops, and restaurants are in historic downtown St. Augustine. So if you need to buy souvenirs, if you want food, if you just want to hang out and see people, the old colonial quarter is that way. This is the place to be.
We start from 1 to 1.
What's that?
We start from the first one and go.
Yeah, we'll start wherever you want.
We can go.
Okay, let's go. Yep. So over this way, there's a lot of Spanish cuisine, Spanish-style restaurants, and it really goes into the Spanish architecture and Spanish culture of the city. So here we are at the oldest wood schoolhouse in the country.
There's a wedding.
Oh, there's a wedding happening here. This is the oldest wooden schoolhouse in the country, and right there you see the flag of Florida, based off of the old royal flag of the Spanish monarchy. If I remember correctly, the schoolhouse was built in the 1760s, so this building is a bit over a decade older than the United States. So then just at the north end of St. George Street, we have the city gates here. So we talked about those in the last video. But yeah, that's where St. George Street comes out, at the old city gates.
Mom, this way.
I'm sorry, I don't understand you. Yeah.
Did you get enough shopping in?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. Gonna go do more shopping.
Hey, we got a picture from the old time photo, and yep, we're leaving St. George Street. We're done shopping today. So yeah.
Okay guys, that's the end of this episode, so see you in the next one. Bonne journée.